Hello, this is Will Faber from Art to Ride, and today we are looking at a second submission by Thomas of the horse Evento. And we saw this horse back almost a year ago now, since we've seen the horse, and the horse was very out of shape. I believe they'd just gotten the horse back into work, and they've been lunging the horse for the last 11 months, and it has certainly paid off. I know they probably went through a winter there as well, but this horse has developed really beautifully since we last saw it, and just exactly what we'd like to see. Now, once again, this horse still looks, there's a little bit of a hole behind the saddle there when we see it in profile there. And you can see that in this particular frame here, this belly is pretty much hanging down as well too, and he hasn't really engaged that core. But the good news is as we go on here, he does. So that's what we're looking for to happen, because we're not looking, if that belly continues to hang down like that, then we'd know nothing was really happening. So remember, it's not just the back we're working on, we're always watching that core lift up as well. Just like Pilates for a human being, we're looking to strengthen the entire horse's core. So not only top line, but the bottom line as well has to draw itself upwards, which what's helped support the back, of course. So this has been great work. This horse was very out of shape when we last saw it. When I last saw it, it was very not rhythmic, was very kind of slow, fast, really kind of dragging its back end along behind. And now it's really gotten into a wonderful rhythm, and is really swinging quite nicely even in this heavy footing out there. Canter's not too bad either. Now, the one thing I was going to suggest is I do think you can start, this horse is cantering well enough now that I think you can start cantering it a little more. It still sounds like it's breathing a little heavy when you ride it. And that tells me that's part of it just being a little bit overweight there and its own belly kind of dragging it down a little bit. So remember, when we want to build wind, canter is the best way to do it, as long as the horse will work over its back. So you can start doing a few more periods of that canter with this horse, I think. But you've done just the right thing. You know, really that was the smart thing to do, was just get off of this horse and just work the groundwork. And I want everybody to really take a look at this, because so many of you are having the same problems, you know, that you really got these horses that have been, you know, as far as training goes, badly trained for years, many of them, you know, with sway backs practically and kissing spine and you name it. And, you know, the best thing to do is just go back and just take the time. And once again, in about a year, it takes about a year, you know, to sort of get rid of most of those sort of problems and get that top line established, in about 2 years to confirm it. But really, that's about the same amount of time that it takes, you know, just to bring any horse, you know, into that place where it's ready to begin collection. So really great work on the lunge line there. Exactly what I'd like to see. I think you can start adding in a little more canter there. The Shambone was certainly the right call. Everything is just going absolutely wonderfully with this horse. His rhythm had just improved so much, tracking underneath the body, all of the above was just very, very good. So great work there. And once again, everybody, you know, just remember that at home. If you follow these guidelines, you know, if you can't get on the horse, as you can see, Thomas can now, he can get on this horse and stretch it. It's got enough strength to hold him up in the walk. Then you're ready to start riding a horse. But you've got to remember that some of these horses that have been badly ridden for years and years and years, or stood in stalls or in little pens for years, you know, their backs are in really, really bad shape. So it's just like a person, you know, it's one thing to start a person who's healthy in becoming an athlete. It's another thing when we have to rehab somebody. And the same thing with the horse. It's going to take a little longer, and we have to be a little more patient and wait for those things to happen. But just like with humans, I mean, I know for myself, I mean, I've had 2 times that I've had knee injuries that doctors wanted to operate on, and I said no, and I just, you know, waited it out, and I did the work, and, you know, and consequently, I didn't have to have surgery. You know, I think anytime you can avoid that kind of thing, it's a good idea. So yes, I might have been on my feet a little faster, but I think I'm probably stronger by virtue of having healed my own body, not to mention the chance that one takes every time we do have somebody cut into you. And that's the same thing I talk about with, you know, with these injections that people do so many of. You know, remember, every time you go into that joint, you stand a great risk of infection and all kinds of problems that can occur with these things. So better not to even have to start them. So once again, this is exactly what we'd like to see. So when a horse is correctly trained and we've done that groundwork correctly, we get on them and we can get on, we can walk them like this. So then the point is, when you can get to this point and you can get on and walk like this, then, you know, you're ready to begin seeing if you can leave out the lunging. So but my suggestion is, you know, if, for instance, if your work week is a 3-day week or a 5-day week, whatever it is, leave out the lunging on the last day of your week. So it's not the first day, then where the horse is going to be fresh, right? and then you can slowly kind of read the horse from there. But that being that rule, if you find you get on your horse and you can't get stretched into this nice relaxed walk that you see Thomas doing here, you really need to go back to the groundwork. And once again, it's just really not fun to fight with horses. And it's just like if horses haven't accepted contact with the bridle, it's only going to be a battle when you get up and try to ride them, because they're not even comfortable with the bit in their mouth. So they're going to resist even having something in their mouth. So, until that happens, we can't begin to ask horse to do much until it will accept the contact, or we certainly shouldn't be riding it until it has accepted the idea, as you see this horse has, a nice, calm, quiet mouth. He's accepted that he has a bit in his mouth, but he's trusting of that bridle, and that's what we're looking for. So this is all very wonderful work here, very excellent. And once again, I love seeing all these people, in these outdoor rings and things where the footing is not perfect. Once again, that's the point of why you want to ride your horse like this, folks, because so many horses today, everyone's so worried about having perfect footing, and yes, you'd like to have as good a footing as you possibly can have. But, if you ride a hollow horse in a ring like this, you stand a much greater chance of pulling a tendon or whatever, because the horse simply isn't balanced on all four legs the way a horse that's working over its back is. Once again, the back, working over the back, is what puts the shock absorber system on the horse and allows all this, the horse can just skip right over holes, so to speak, instead of having its foot stop in it. So remember, no matter how high a horse lifts its legs, or how high its head is up in the air, it's on the forehand if it's not working to the back and it's not really balanced on all four legs. So once again, this is really just great work. Look how rhythmic and four-beat the walk has become. And why we still see with this horse, once again, looking in profile there, and we see how the saddle, there's still a bit of a dip behind the saddle there, but that's all going to fill up. And once again, same thing with the belly, is still a little distended, but we can see now, and you can really see it when he goes into the trot here in a few moments, you really see the belly beginning to light up. You see that the abdominal wall lighting up there just about the level where his boot is there. You'll keep watching that as the lesson goes on, and you'll see how the horse draws its abdominal muscles up throughout the work. And that's what we're looking to have happen, just like a person. If you go to the gym, what you want to do, if you lift any kind of weight, no matter what you do, you want to engage your core while you're doing it. Then you're working your whole body all the time, and you're limiting your exposure to injury, so to speak. Same thing with horses. So this is all really, really good. Everything we're seeing here is just exactly what we'd like to see. A beautiful rhythmic walk here. And yes, it will get bigger as time goes on here and even be more rhythmic. But if you compare this to the last video that we saw, it's night and day. So once again, they've done just the right thing. You just got off the horse's back and you lunged it long enough till it was strong enough for you to get up and ride like this, and then the horse is ready to go. One of the things that people miss also, that I'm always funny that they miss it, because in the same breath they'll tell me the same thing, and people talk about how long it takes to train horses like this, but then you talk to the other people you've met who are on their fantastic horse, and you talk to them 6 months later, well, where's that fantastic horse? Oh, it's lame, it's laid up for 6 months now, and they start going down that spiral. So, well, if we train our horses correctly and get them working over their backs, we just do ourselves such a favor, in that we get to keep riding the horse. So these people go out and they do what they do, and they hurry them up, trying to make them do things that they're unprepared to do. And yes, they have a big exciting time for a while, but pretty soon they're sidelined by injury. And the sad thing that they keep putting the horse through that over and over again. But this is what we want to do. Take into consideration the horse's physicality from the day we start working it. Just like you would yourself. Think if you were raising a child, you'd want to feed it right, educate it right. It has a physical education, all the above, so it can become a reasonable citizen. Well, that's what we want horses to do too, and that takes time. It's that thing of, if you beat horses into doing things, they never really trust you, so you never really know what's going to happen. Once again, that's why we see so many of these horses that have been roll curd and this sort of thing, at these big horse shows, and they can't stand still because they're so, when they hear the applause of the crowd, a horse that's been treated like that is always looking for where the next blow is going to come from. So, any kind of sudden noise or whatever, they're thinking that's where it's going to be coming from. But when horses get used to not being hurt, they start to trust their environment and trust us, So again, really nice leg yield there. All of this has been wonderful in exactly the right frame where we'd like it to be, just stretched out, not shortening the horse's frame to do the movements. It's the biggest thing for people to get in their minds, that if we shorten the horses to do the lateral movement, we really haven't achieved anything. Because remember, if we lose the rhythm and the length of the stride, the horse is evading the gymnastic quality of the exercise. Once again, you can see how he's working and struggling a little bit there, but he keeps the rhythm very nicely. And once he comes back to the rail, he goes right back into the stretch. And that's just what we're looking for there. Beautiful walk here. You know, I heard from somebody recently who trains people to do musical curs, and she told me that she was suggesting that people watch our site because you can see, you know, how easy it is to set horses to music, you know, if it has rhythm, you know. If the horse is constantly changing rhythm, it would be very hard to do a musical cur. The way so many people ride, where they're constantly shortening and lengthening and shortening and lengthening and speeding and slowing down the tempo of the horse all the time, instead of real collection where the tempo stays exactly the same. So that's what we're looking for. So always remembering that rhythm guides everything that we do. The rhythm and the position of the back. If we can't keep one, we probably can't keep the other. Really good swing in the walk here. Once again, everyone should go back and look at the last video of this horse, and it was so irregular and very different top line. Now look how beautiful that neck is out there like that. That's exactly what we want to see. You know, and a lot of people think, you know, that these Andalusian horses and Lusitanos and horses like this, you know, don't need to do this stretching work. Well, they may not have needed it so much in the past, but they certainly need it now. And I think a lot of people forget, you know, even when I was a kid, a lot of our horses were kept on, you know, hundreds of acres where they roamed all the time, and they looked fantastic. Their bodies always looked fantastic. And that's why I keep looking at horses today going like, what is wrong with this picture? Like, why are all these horses just look like, you know, they look like they're coming off of the Tijuana rent string, so to speak. And I even see people on, you know, very expensive horses, and, you know, they look the same way. And I think part of that is just that thing of horses being raised in so much smaller spaces. You know, they don't move around enough. They don't have enough grazing. I know that's very true here in California, and also why we don't see much breeding in California anymore. People tried it, and I think so many people had bad luck because they tried to raise horses in 24 by 24 pens in their backyard, and you're just never going to get a good result. Once again, it's kind of like I just read an article saying, you know, that there's really not much this generation of obese children that we have in the United States and all around the world, really starting, you know, that it's almost too late for them, you know, that they've already been so damaged, you know, by what's happened to them by eating junk food and sitting on couches all their lives and not getting enough exercise. So the same thing that happens to horses. So once again, look how beautifully he goes into this trot work here and how deep the horse is under his body. Once again, I want you all to go back and compare this horse 11 months ago before the lunging. And look how beautifully this horse is floating over the ground. The hocks are flexing totally evenly. Now, they did put shoes on this horse, which I think I recommended, and that's made a big difference too. As I said, I found very few horses, you know, especially if the horse is low in the heel at all, it's very hard to ride them because they get so sore on their heels. But this is absolutely beautiful work here. I mean, you can literally see the ball rolling over the ground with this horse. Now, as I was talking about before, watching right there, you can see it as he goes by at the level of his heel there, you can see how the flank is beginning to engage there, and that's just what we're looking for. That is, the horse is beginning to engage up through the abdominal wall as it pulls its back up. And look how even. Once again, look at that mud, but it's completely unaffected by it because it's working so well over its back. It's just powering right through that heavy footing. You know, if you were on a hollow-backed horse, it would have a very hard time doing that. But because now with the horse working over its back like this, it makes the horse four-wheel drive. So this is absolutely wonderful work, Thomas. You've done another great job with this horse, and you guys have been examples for us all to see. You know, once again, people realize that, you know, that's the thing that they did was just go back and give the horse the time. You know, you just got to remember, you've got to think in terms of training horses in years. And when you do that, then you get years and years and years of good work out of the horse. You know, when you think in months, you know, you get very little time out of the horse in terms of good work because that's exactly what happens. They, you know, they wear out just about as quickly as you try to train them, so to speak, when you overdo it. So this has been wonderful work. I look forward to seeing maybe some canter in the next one. As I said, I think this one's ready to do a little more canter. Will help her. I would start that on the lunge line, of course, but I'm sure you'll feel it out when it's ready to canter on the under saddle. I think you'll be ready to do it. And this, I believe they said, was only the first time they've trotted the horse under saddle. So once again, it just shows you how if you do the work, then you get up and you just reap the rewards of all that easy work instead of putting yourself at risk even. You know, I see so many people with young horses and they're just, you know, they don't have them right. They're completely out of balance and hollow, and they're quite dangerous that way. I mean, I tell you, at my age, I've seen every kind of accident you can possibly name. I've seen many people crushed by horses that fell on them. And that's why we want to have them balanced. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Great job again, Thomas. Super. We look forward to seeing you in Belgium next year.